There, the federal government, Buhari, specifically President Buhari, speaking about backing the Kaduna State government on its planned sack for those teachers in Kaduna State that failed their competency test. You also heard from Professor Bukola, a renowned education, is also making his own opinion as regards that. A whole lot of reactions back and forth on this particular matter. Even the NLC has come out to disagree with the Kaduna State government that they are going to make them reverse their stand on sacking those teachers. But we'll be talking to the NLC president in a moment, who'll be joining us via satellite from our studios in Abuja. But before we get to that, we have a studio with us, a guest here with us in the studio in Lagos.
An education researcher, and this is. I think this is someone we should talk to, one who's into education and is in the person of Dr. Peter Ogudoro. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Galaxy today.
It's my pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you too. I'd like us to go back to the days when I went to school. Teaching was, going to school was quite fun, and of course there was a bit of seriousness. But looking at it now that the Kaduna State governor in particular decided to sack 21,780 teachers because of incompetency. And it makes me bother, or want to make me ask, these teachers are supposed to be teachers who were taught from way back. And if they're incompetent, then it means that their foundation has been wrong. What would you say, or how would you address this issue, in your own opinion?
Well, a whole lot of questions we have to ask and seek answers for. In the first place, how did these teachers get into teaching?
Into teaching, yeah.
And if you have done some research into this, you will confirm that most of these people we say have failed this competency test actually do hold minimum of grade 2 teacher's certificate. How did they get it? The organization that awarded the certificates they have, has that organization spoken to tell us how come they give certificates to people who are incompetent? Should the teachers take the entire blame for their incompetence? And these teachers, what are the other factors that probably can be said to account for their inability to deliver up to the expectation of the Kaduna State government and, of course, the larger stakeholders within the education industry? So it's a systemic flaw. Nigeria as a society is in very serious decay. And now that the focus is on primary school teachers, it will look like they are the only ones who are incompetent. But if you do my kind of job, you will know that we have this problem in every sector of the Nigerian economy. If you go and do a similar test in banking, you will discover that the average branch manager of a bank is incompetent to man a branch. Okay? When Dangote was building his Ibeship cement plant, he imported about 70% of the people who had to work there because he couldn't find competent hands in Nigeria. If you go into oil industry, you find similar challenges. Most of the people who run the system are coming from abroad. Okay, you go into banking, specifically looking at their IT system, you find that the people who run the entire IT structure of the banking industry in Nigeria are essentially from India. And for a bank like mine, if I pick up my phone and call my customer service, what I know today is that the person who provides me answer is in India, even though my bank is in Nigeria. So it's not just primary school teachers in Kaduna that have this problem. It pervades the entire Nigerian economy, and it is because of poor foundation. It's because we haven't placed the right value on education and on teachers who run the system. We don't pay them well. They have to cry and shout and go to the street before we can pay their salaries. And we say that their reward is in heaven, and politicians flaunt their wealth all over the place. And we just make politically correct statements as minister, as director, as governor, and all of that. If you sack 21,000 teachers, where will you get the replacement from?
Okay, but should that be a justification? For instance, I was just going through some of the questions these teachers were meant to answer. Yes. For instance, they were asked to define what cash crop is. From what I can see, I don't know, we even have pictures we can show on the screen.
Yes.
They can't even spell cash.
Yes.
You know, even though the cash was spelled there,
Yes.
what is the cash crop? They now spell their own cash as CAX.
Yes.
Let me just read verbatim. It says cax core, CORPS, cax cores are crops. Cax core are crops that farmers, you know, is growing to get money. E.g., they can't even spell tomatoes.
Yeah,
they said
true.
tomatoes.
Yeah.
My question right now be,
Whose fault?
I mean, whose fault? One, and secondly, I mean, what about the children we are supposed to be teaching?
Yeah, definitely. So in that case, you're asking the question about effect. The effect is terrible on all of us because if I'm supposed to teach and the person I'm teaching appears now to know better than myself, the question is, how can we help the system that the products of the system are supposed to serve? That definitely won't be able to help Nigeria. And but I'm more concerned about the root of the problem.
Okay.
There are basic fundamental challenges. In the case of a lot of states in the north, and what I'm about to say now, I'm saying it with a high sense of responsibility, is unlikely to be a politically correct statement and analysis to make, because politicians do not like to hear about this. When you divide Nigeria into two, you talk about southern Nigeria, you talk about northern Nigeria. The truth we know today, for those of us who do research, is that this problem is more endemic in the north than you have it in the south. But we do have also a fair share of this problem in the south. This type of test has been done in Edo State. The teachers there were found wanting. It has been done in Kwara State. The teachers there were found wanting. And if you duplicate it across the country, in most of the places, you will find that at least 25% of the teachers were found wanting. But it's more terrible in this part because of peculiar challenges of northern Nigeria over the years. It's not something that just started today. And then lately, in the last 10 years, we have had, Boko Haram and, security challenges. A lot of the people who used to help that part of the country came, and in terms of teachers, came from southern Nigeria. And as a result of insecurity, many of them have migrated away from north and have come back to the south. And so they have abandoned their responsibilities there. And people who were not prepared to play roles in the classroom had to suddenly become teachers, okay? Holding very significant positions, okay? Now, but unfortunately, if you make this kind of statement, people will say, no, it's not true. We are all equal. Both north and south are equal. But that's not, it doesn't help us. I'm glad that, El-rufai has been able to, hit the nail on the head, and he's willing to accept the bad image that this will bring to the state. Because if you don't recognize the problem, then it means you can't even find solution to it. Okay. Right. So I do agree. We are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. But finding solution to this problem is not something you achieve by sacking workers, because sacking them will not provide a solution. You can't find 21,000 teachers anywhere in the north. Okay, but just before we talk about what to do about it, because we say we shouldn't sack 21,000 teachers. I don't know if we are thinking of letting them stay in the system. But let's get to Abuja. We have the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress standing by. Good morning to you, comrade. In your opinion, you're saying that the teachers, the over 21,000 teachers, should not be sacked, that the Kaduna State government should rescind its decision. On what basis or justification do you place your position?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity for the voice of these workers to be heard. Let me say first and foremost that as a Congress, as a movement, as an organization, we believe in positive reforms that are all encompassing, but reforms that are based on transparency, openness, following the rule of law with human face, and importantly, respect for our laws. Let me say in the first place that when this exercise started, our unions, particularly the unions that are affected, the Nigerian Union of the Teachers, that represent the interests of teachers, and also the NOLGE, the Union of Local Government Employees. Let me also try to give some more information. It's not about 22,000 teachers alone. It goes beyond about 30,000 workers that are actually going to be affected by this policy, which is essentially aimed at reducing the workforce. And that's why we try to say that whereas we believe in positive reform, but these have not followed the due process. First is that teaching today in Nigeria is a profession. Just as other professions, just as you cannot test the competency of a medical doctor without actually using the Medical and Dental Council, we also thought that it will be important for any competency test to have meaning and also to follow processes. We thought that the position that was canvassed by NUT from the beginning is to the effect that they agreed there should be competency tests, but they said the relevant agency that is supposed to be doing this is actually the Teachers Registration Council or the National Teachers Institute. And they pleaded that the process should be open, transparent, so that at the end of the day, everybody can own it, because they are not only stakeholders, they are social partners in the issue of addressing any reform in education. Teachers are very, very central, and therefore, taking them along the process, I think, is important. And I think this is the difference between what we have in other states and what happened in Kaduna. So essentially, we were informed that what is driving this reform, which I said clearly is about 30,000, over 30,000 workers that will be affected, concurrently going on, apart from the issue of the teachers, I told you on good authority that 5,000 local government workers with no reason have also been penciled down for sack, and also other workers in ministries, department, and agency. And I was told that the driving force behind the one of the teachers and the number behind it, some of the information that have actually been put in public domain, is the fact that there is this understanding or the thinking of the government that if you sack this number of teachers who are on different grade levels, some are on 13, 14, and you sack them and replace them with 25,000 workers or fresh appointees on fixed salaries. Let me give you an example of fixed salary of 25,000 or 20. It has not.
All right, we will try and see if we can reconnect with Abuja in the course of the show. We still have Ayuba Waba, the NLC president, standing by. We'll get back to him in a couple of moments, but we still have Dr. Peter Ogudoro with us here in the studio. You just listened to part of what the NLC president said, justifying why they should not be sacked all at once. But my question right now will be, is there any justification to have that number of incompetent teachers, in quote, in the system when they are not actually doing what they should be doing?
Well, we may not accurately sit down in this studio and confirm that the information we have in public domain can be trusted.
Okay. With
due respect to the people who have conducted the test and the sincerity of the governor with respect to his intention to ensure that education gets its pride of place in the scheme of things within the state and beyond. The reason is the fact that who said the questions, and as I mentioned earlier, the question is, these people who wrote this test, do they have certificate to be teachers? The answer for most of them is yes. And as the NLC president mentioned, who awarded the certificate that they possess, National Teachers Institute in Kaduna. So if they have given certificate to people who we have now found incompetent, why are we not mentioning their name, really? Why are we not saying that their tests have lacked validity, as we say in education? Why haven't they been called to question? Probably the Director General of the Institute should resign, because his tests have been, his institute has been found to be wanting to have given certificates to people who have no business holding teacher certificate. So a whole lot of questions. But then that theory of probably trying to save money for the state by sacking, you're looking for a basis, to offload a significant number of the workforce in the state administration to be able to cope with the financial burden of running a state. That theory is the theory that probably the Nigerian Labour Congress president is canvassing. And we, given what we know about Nigeria, we shouldn't dismiss it in a hurry. We should also not accept it in a hurry. The only way we can find out what the true position is probably to go in there and do a thorough investigation. Okay? By the time we do thorough investigation, we discover that there may be elements of truth on both sides of the divide. The NLC may have a point, the governor may have a point. And as a researcher in education within Nigeria and across the world, I do know that Nigeria is a country that has failed over the years to place value on education. And that's why we have remained a very poor country. And that problem, we are not going to solve it even in the next 20 years, because it doesn't take only 10 years to produce competent teachers. We are even struggling with this kind of thing. We are talking about national teachers, grade 2 certificate. That's where these people are. In proper countries, in a place like Finland, for example, they place so much value on primary school education that the minimum qualification you need now to teach in primary school in Finland is master's degree. And we are still struggling to get it right with respect to teachers grade 2. When are we going to move to NCE? When are we going to get to bachelor's of education? And when are we going to get to where the world is now, which is that if you want to run a society that can be globally competitive, you need to pay attention to primary and secondary school education. Once you get it right at that level, you don't, in fact, as a parent, if you give your children solid primary and secondary school education, you can end it there. They will give themselves tertiary education because of the way the world is organized now. You can use, distance learning sources to give yourself education up to PhD. As a matter of fact, I do have a PhD in education, but the truth I know is that my parents didn't train me beyond secondary school. Every education I have had beyond that point, I gave to myself. But I was able to give that to myself because my parents had invested in laying a very solid foundation by giving me very good primary and secondary school education. We don't seem to understand that in this part of the world. And the way we are handling this, just by making noise and posting things about it on the social media, doesn't provide solution for it. The people talking, whether they are politicians or even political labor activists, don't seem to have clear idea regarding how to fix the problem. It's a fundamental problem afflicting Nigeria. And I weep for the country, because if you know where education is globally, sometimes you wonder, say, what's the matter with the black man? We are like this all over Africa. Okay, in some sense, Nigeria is even a little better than some of the other African countries, and so we haven't got to 10% of where the world is with respect to primary school education. And we need to wake up now to start addressing it. Otherwise, we will remain an important nation. Doesn't it bother you that there are no inventors in this part of the world? Everything we consume, we import from abroad. Because it takes education, it takes quality thinking to be able to produce people who can challenge the status quo, who can ask questions, who can engage people on issues like this and find the right answer. So that's where we are. It's a very sad situation, but the solution certainly is not as simplistic as politicians want to make you believe.
Okay, so now talking about him sacking about 21,780 teachers, according to report, El-Rufai said that his predecessors had already said that teachers who do not have or who have not gone through the NC education should within the next 5 years. Unfortunately, according to him, these teachers that were sacked did not. And so for him, he feels that the grace period is over and it's time to take action.
Yeah, let's make an important point there. I'm a professional trainer and educationist, and what we generally say in our business, especially in human resources management, is that if you haven't trained Justin, okay, don't blame him for his incompetence.
But,
if I'm the employer of the teacher who has been found incompetent, I should take responsibility for him being incompetent. In the first place, I recruited him. Government, is on a continuum. There's no way the way we look at government here, El-Rufai is different from the governments that have come before him. That's not true. Okay, past government employed these teachers. It becomes El-Rufai's responsibility to ensure that these teachers are competent. If he finds them incompetent, he should ask himself, why are they incompetent? Have they been trained? Have they been going through refresher training? And if they have, who has been training them? Have we funded the training process adequately? Okay, which organizations have been involved in this training, and are we evaluating the system adequately? And then what's the remuneration like? When you say a teacher should acquire proper qualifications, the next question we should ask is that how much do you pay him if he's going to receive quality education in a modern context? Okay, he needs money to fund it. The money it takes to fund the training of a teacher is not the kind of money that a teacher receives a salary in Nigeria. You can't train yourself with a teacher's salary in modern society. Okay, my doctoral training costs close to 200 million. And that's just a program that lasted about 3 years. A teacher in Nigeria can't fund quality teacher education today. How much are you paying him? Okay? But most of the time, we just want to clap hands for governors, because if we clap hands for governors, they invite us and give us political appointment, and then we are happy. Rather than getting them to realize that the problem is deeper than they are presenting it to the larger world. And all we do here is just to try and make money for the advanced societies, because at the end of the day, from what I see with my colleagues, recently I was in Cambridge, and one of my colleagues there was telling me that she came to Nigeria, one of the states in the north, to do consultancy. What was it that you came there to do? By the time she finished discussing it, I was laughing. We keep bringing people from abroad to come and solve problems that have local flavors. They don't know what our challenges are. Examination malpractice, interestingly, is at the center of this matter we are discussing, and nobody is mentioning it. And you find it everywhere. In medicine, doctors indulge in examination malpractice. A lot of medical doctors have no business being in the consulting room. Right. Okay? And even within broadcasting, you'll be shocked. Now, some of your colleagues, if you give them a chance to anchor this program, the way they will start, the way they will carry on, the way they will end, will embarrass you. So it's not just peculiar to teachers alone. It's a problem that is endemic in the system. It's a systemic flaw, and politicians must be very careful how to handle it.
All right, we're going back to Abuja. We still have Ayuba Waba standing by, the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. All right, comrade, just before we left off there, you were talking about Labour's plan as regards this particular matter. So let's just get to know what you're doing in the immediate term. All right, do we still have Abuja there? All right, I'm thinking we're still having a bit of an issue connecting to Abuja. Just to remind you that you can be a part of this conversation. Teaching education is actually everybody's business, one way or the other. You still go back to school to teach, to learn. You have children, you have people who are